Welcome to Claim Your Confidence, a podcast that will introduce you to the most powerful people in the world. No matter what obstacles you face, Claim Your Confidence will inspire and motivate you to go after the life you want. Are you ready to claim your confidence?
Good morning, everyone. This is Lydia Fenet coming to you with Claim Your Confidence in Rockefeller Center, and I am so excited about today's episode. So Mary and I got here a little early, and we are super fired up. So we thought that we would start this podcast by telling you a little bit about our internship experiences. So in order to do that, let me introduce you to the woman who is in front of me. Now, this is her third time on Claim Your Confidence. Mary Giuliani is a caterer to the stars. She is an author of 3 books. She also happens to be my best friend.
Yes.
So it is super fun to have her here. And I really cannot thank you enough for coming because I know this is Gala, your daughter's last day at her school. I know. So there are a lot of mixed emotions, but thank you for being here.
I love you. I would go anywhere with you.
Oh, thank you.
And I think I proved that on our first day we met. I followed you into a copy room or something.
There are so many good stories for sure. So let me first of all tell everyone what we're doing, why you're watching us live on Instagram, what's going on. So I have an incredible bevy of summer interns this summer who arrived last week. Now, I just started my agency, the Lydia Fenet agency, last year, and I have to be honest, the first day I was sort of like, oh my gosh, I have all of these interns. Now I have to figure out what we're doing.
With them?
Like, what are we doing with our interns? And I had so many interns over my time at Christie's, and you know this, Mary, because you met them. And Mary has had so many interns over the course of a 2 decades plus career running the top catering firm in New York City. So when I was sitting there talking to Susan, one of my interns, I sort of said to her, do you want me to tell you what you should do in an office? Because I feel like I hear from a lot of young 20-year-olds right now that they don't even know what to do when they walk in because of COVID, because of they're out of college, it's their first job. So that's really why we're here today.
Yeah, and I wish someone would have done that for me because we'll go to my stories, but it is so important because you don't know. It's your first job. It's your first time sometimes in an office environment. It's your first time into New York City. It's your first time in a big city. So I think this is going to be really helpful.
I do too.
And I'm so inspired by youth and dreams, and that's what propels our friendship and glues it together. So it's exciting to help them forward.
Absolutely. And I started as an intern at Christie's, and I know that was a job that ended up being over 2 decades long. But Mary, your internship experiences were varied. So
this
take me through a couple of those.
This defines our friendship and how much we love each other and how incredibly different we are. You had 2 internships at the same place and stayed there for 20 plus years. I'm going to tap it out at 7 different internships. The one I most remember is my first internship between my junior year of college and my senior year of college was at Sesame Street, which I was thrilled. But I thought that meant I was literally working on Sesame Street, like in the studio with the puppets, I was going to be like hanging out with Big Bird and, Oscar. And that was not the experience. I worked in a closet, an AV room in the city, not even near the studio. The studio's in Queens. The office is in New York City. And it was such a tragic disappointment that all I did all summer long was catalog VHS tapes. Yes, that's how old I am, kids. And
in her early 20s,
in
Mary
my
Giuliani,
early 20s, I was locked in a dark closet, which for me is not I like to be out there with the people. And I didn't do a great job at that internship. I called in sick. You should never do that because when I called them when I graduated, I was shocked. They didn't have a position for me.
Yeah.
And I asked for feedback, and she said, well, you weren't here that often.
Oh, my God. Is that really what she said?
Yes.
But I think that goes back to something. We were discussing this. And you guys, I have to say the other really exciting part of being here in Rockefeller Center today is that both of my parents here, my mom and my dad are both here. And my mom does the intro for this. But anyway, we were talking about all of this before, about the lessons that we got from our parents before our interns.
Oh, yeah.
Our internship started. So in part something that Nance and Dr.
Nance
J said.
and Rob, my parents are the best. And my father, over his office, he always had inspirational, signs that, and one of them was get out on the front and lead or get behind and follow. If you can't do either, then just get out of the way. And that was one that I always sort of took with me. where's my value in this? Like, am I leading here? Am I listening? Am I learning? But I can't just be doing nothing.
Yeah.
So there's like the first thing. The other thing that he said with every new experience, especially a new job experience, it's your opportunity to steal everything with your eyes and your ears in that listen to every conversation, look around. Like my first real job, I looked around and realized they needed help. And how was I going to fit into this, like helping them grow their business and build their business? But there's so much you could steal with your eyes and your ears that's free if you just make yourself like a sponge to all of it.
Absolutely. And with my parents, the advice was so, I mean, I think this was just imbued in us from a very early age. It's just get in there, be the first one in, be the last one out.
Yep.
And I remember showing up for my internship, and there's this great quote that I see on posters everywhere now, like there's always a lot of room at the extra mile. And I think that was the truest part of my internship, because I remember I would come in so eager to learn, and Lauren Short, who you know, because we both, Mary was the in-house caterer.
She gave me my big break, Lauren Short.
Lauren Short was an amazing first boss because she was incredible about always including me in everything. I had moved to New York. I didn't really know anyone here at that point. I went to Swanee, and there weren't a lot of people from Swanee coming to New York City. And so I didn't really have plans, which as an extrovert is a really hard thing, especially coming out of college where you have nothing but plans because you're surrounded by people. And all of a sudden I'm in this very lonely city with 8 million people just sort of twiddling my thumbs on the weekends. And I think she realized it pretty quickly. And so she started including me because I was up for anything.
Yeah.
You know, I always said yes.
Still are.
I still am. I mean, I will go to anything because I just like to be out and about.
Yeah.
That's why I live here.
Yeah.
But it really was such an amazing thing. And I do believe it's because I showed up with that attitude of, oh, you guys just had lunch and the table needs to be wiped. Without even asking, I've got the paper towel. I'm going to wipe it off. Like, oh, you need this done? Great. And one part of internship, which I think is so important, is anticipating the needs of the people that you're working with. It's not always sitting around asking for more projects, which is something I've seen in my interns over the course of a 20-year career. It's literally having people who are thinking of things that you don't even think of.
Correct. What's the word?
Proactive.
Proactive. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's early.
I need another coffee. Proactive. This is the number one thing.
Yeah.
I tell everyone, I'm like, listen, I don't just like, there's always something to do.
Yeah.
And if there isn't, make it up. Bring in ideas. What I learned about going back to the Sesame Street thing, where I thought that the doors were going to open and it was all going to be given to me.
Yeah.
And I was going to be, like I said, hanging out with Big Bird. You don't get to hang out with Big Bird until you do the work.
Right.
And for me, I had someone come work for me for about 2 weeks. She was an intern, and it's an event planning company. Okay, we do work with art, fashion, and entertainment people, but it's an event planning company. She was there for about 2 weeks. She came in crying, and she said, I didn't realize how hard this was going to be. And I was like, I'm like, what part of it is hard? She's like, the events. And I was like, all right, well, that's what we do here. That's the business. Where do you see yourself? What else would you want to be doing within this? Is there something? And she just said, well, I want to be you. And I said,
you're like, even I want to be me because it's a facade.
But I went back to, I was like, I don't know why, but talk to my therapist. She would definitely talk you out of that. But I went back to that girl waiting to meet Big Bird. I was like, I didn't realize there's, which I imparted on her. This is 25 years of blood, sweat, and tears and hard work and sacrifice and rising and falling and falling down. And so instead of getting angry and saying, oh, they want everything so quickly, I said, you have to have patience, and you can't be anything. You could be better than me. You could be a million different things, but you got to do the work. You have to do the work.
Yeah. So to everyone who is tuning in now, I want to tell you how this is going to work. We're going to open up the phones at 9:45 for you guys to call in with any questions you have. Now, these can be questions about your first job. If you're in an internship and you're having issues, feel free to call in. We will answer all of your questions. The number is on Instagram Live. It's 917-410-1507. I feel like Suzanne Summers. I'm like, 917-410-1507. All right. And in our next 5 minutes, I want to hear, just because I think, again, going back to what you said, people see where you are now and they're like, oh my gosh, your job is so glamorous and fun.
Gosh.
Give me the worst intern things that you did.
Oh, gosh.
Give me like some really good ones. I can kick it off if you can't think of any because I have them in my brain. Anyway.
I just remember the head like that you actually wore. Like, so one of my first jobs, I had to just answer phones. That was it, and I wore the like headgear with like the
Delta
earphones and the thing and the Delta. And I just remember like it was so awkward, and I remember every time my boss would like call me because it was attached to like a intercom thing. I would get up and my whole computer would like fall off the thing.
You're like, let me just pick up the phone again.
You keep going because I had so many bad ones.
Okay, so some of my favorite internship experience nightmare stories that aren't even nightmares, but I definitely had to stamp and lick envelopes because I worked in events in my first job as well. Like hundreds of envelopes. Hundreds of envelopes. I remember the Seinfeld episode that came out where someone's fiance died. I was like, that could have been me. So there was that. There was a lot of like polishing of furniture that was downstairs that we did before we did things. Yeah. But truly, I think the greatest, and this wasn't even an internship experience, but these were early days at Christie's, and you'll remember this. We were doing this massive event for Elizabeth Taylor. An event planner who I will not name came in and basically looked around at 3 o'clock in the morning. So we're still there doing setup the night before at 3 o'clock in the morning. And he looks around and he's dressed perfectly, by the way, for 3 o'clock in the morning.
Perfectly, but we won't.
I mean, he was immaculately dressed. And he looked around and he said, darling, these walls are not pearl. They are ecru. And we had to completely repaint the walls, which meant that I slept overnight at Christie's in one of the viewing rooms.
Underneath the tablecloth.
Underneath the raffia tablecloth, which if you know anything about events, it's a very scratchy, uncomfortable tablecloth. And I remember and then we had the event the next night. So it was like, 2 full days. I was completely delirious, but I think I just loved it so much. Yeah. And I loved all of those opportunities. And so what I would say to an intern or anyone in their first job, there's so many things that at the time you're kind of like, I can't believe that I'm doing this right now. And I think there are also so many things that in the world that we live in now, everybody tries to throw this negative spin on everything that you have to do when you work. We all did it to get to where we are. But also, don't forget, you're going to learn something every single time.
Absolutely.
As your dad said, by the way, there are other people who are in it too. Like everybody's in it together. So use those bonding moments, use those team bonding moments to get to know the people on a human level. Because ultimately, as in your internship, your greatest opportunity as an intern is the human network that you are creating.
Absolutely. It's so, and I'm thinking about that. I'm stuck on that event because as Lydia you were the head of the event department, I was the caterer on that event, and Lydia's sleeping under tablecloths, and the next day I'm running out to get Elizabeth Taylor's dog wee-wee pads.
That's right. I forgot about that. And also the bendy straws, remember?
And she had inadvertently locked herself in her hotel bathroom, and the party got delayed, and we had to but the thing is, these stories that at the time, I would just remember how much my feet hurt.
Yeah.
We had been working for days, but now here, 24 years later, they're the stories that built us, that made us. Yeah. And I tell everyone who comes to work at my catering company the same thing. I said, no, this is not your end stop. No one dreams as a little girl. They don't say, I want to wake, Mommy, someday I'm going to be a caterer. But what this is going to do is there's going to be so many things for you to see, so many opportunities, and you will be able, with your eyes open, to look into so many different worlds, get so many glimpses, and decide what it is you want to be. I had an intern come to me fresh out of college. She wanted to be a designer, but she's working in a catering office, okay? And so, I said, how do you connect those two things? Like, how do you, and so what she ended up doing was she started to design events for us. She took, learned a CAD program, learned all these things, designed our events. 10 years later, she's our creative director, designing events for HBO and Showtime. Now, she's running a design firm, starting in a little catering office. So don't think like those little first jobs are nothing. Yeah. They could be huge.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so true. And I would also say to anyone who is listening, who is a boss, somebody who has interns and people working for them, I think a huge part of the responsibility of taking on interns and taking on the job as a manager is really thinking about how to grow the people underneath you. And I will tell you this, Mary, because you'll remember that Mary used to call me with sort of assessment reports of my interns and how they were doing without them knowing it. So she called me. This was, I think, my last couple of years at Christie's, and she said to me, I just want to let you know that your intern or your assistant, she's like, I'm not sure who it is, answers your phone by saying, hello? with no introduction, nothing about where she works, like nothing about whose boss, like there was no information. Nope. And you were like, is this Lydia Fenet's office? And she was like, yeah. And so I remember we laughed. We had a good laugh over that one. But there was another part of me too that was like, you know what, that's my fault. Because I didn't tell her to take out her earbuds so she could hear what people were saying in the office. There is a corporate culture that I think a lot of people miss out on because they work from home. And so that is why we are here today.
To tell you what to do.
So I have Susan and Gardner, my interns, are going to be, they have a whiteboard that Susan brought all the way in from Connecticut today. So if there are any questions you guys want to put into the live chat on Instagram, feel free to do that. Otherwise, feel free to call in. It is 917-410-1507. Okay, so two more questions for you. Tell me, this was not an internship story, but this was your mezzo soprano story that you have to tell us.
Yes, well, yeah.
As we wait for calls.
This was an early job. And again, another reason, like, I got there and I was like, I should have it all, right away. And that's not how it is, especially in entertainment. I worked for a management company that managed like the biggest and brightest names in the world at the time, and all the people I wanted to be. Because when I came to New York, I wanted to be a writer and a performer. So I get a temp job, which is like an internship, at an entertainment management company. And my job was to come in the morning, turn the lights on first, very important. Second was make, which all my bosses called very bad coffee. Mm-hmm. And then third was photocopy. That is a machine, kids, that you actually put things. Photocopy daily breakdowns. Daily breakdowns are the casting notices from all the studios that what they're casting. And this was pre-internet. So I'd have to photocopy the breakdowns, collate them, staple them, and put them on the 5 managers' desks. And they would come in, they'd read through them, and then they would yell to me, again, I had the headphones on, who to submit, like Maggie Gyllenhaal and Kate Hudson and the people that they represented. One day I see the ad, one of the breakdowns is that they were casting the role of mezzo soprano. And I took this absolutely as a sign that this part was for me. So I went into my purse and took my homemade headshot taken of myself by myself out of my purse, put it into the envelope with people like Maggie Gyllenhaal, and submitted. 2 weeks later, I'm sitting there. The call comes in from Sheila Jaffe, the head of HBO casting. And I'm just sitting there. I'm looking at my boss, and I know it's happening. I know he's going to compliment me on what an incredibly bold move this was. And he calls me into his office and he goes, did you submit your own headshot for the role of mezzo soprano? I was like, I did. He goes, you're fired.
So let that be your learning lesson as we take our first caller, Mary. Thank you so much. Don't get too aggressive. Hi, caller. What is your name?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Who is this?
My name's Anne.
Hi, Anne.
This is Anne. How are you?
I'm good. Anne. Welcome to Claim Your Confidence. How can we help you?
Thank you. So I just started a new internship, and I had a huge journey of finding a job, an internship, and it was really difficult. I am wondering, like, in terms of getting an internship, how persistent is too persistent? And how many times should I follow up with an email?
That's a great question.
Why don't you take that?
I'm not a huge fan of too much. I think, but I also, you have to realize that who the person you are reaching out to is probably incredibly busy. So definitely, it's not a one shot. Don't ever give up after a first chance. Ever. I would circle back. I don't know, once a week for the first, and if you're not getting anything, move on, and then, but give it like one last chance, like a month or so later, because you never know. I know that I've had things fall through, and then they reach back out again, and I actually click on it and look at the resume, and I'm like, oh gosh, I missed a good one.
Yeah.
Like, that was a really good one. So don't give up, but also don't be too persistent. I don't, you might have totally different.
I know. Having written my first chapter, the most powerful woman in the room is you on the persistence and calling up. I feel like, to Mary's point, one thing that a lot of people underestimate when it comes to getting jobs, finding internships, is that it is your priority, but it is not necessarily the priority of the person who is receiving the information. So, it's almost like anything you do in life. Like if you do a book proposal or something like that, you submit that book proposal and all you can think about is your book proposal. Meanwhile, the person on the other end of that is probably getting 5 a day. So what I would say to you is, yes, to Mary's point about doing that first thing, don't ever think that the first one is one and done. I have no problem with people following up again, because it might hit me at the middle. I might get that email at 5 o'clock in the morning on the way to the airport when I have some time, versus the first 3 that I've received in the middle of, a crazy auction season, or my kids are super busy and it just gets buried somewhere. So if I don't respond to you, I would say definitely follow up, because I will come back to you at some point, even if it's like a couple of weeks later.
I think definitely don't give up after a first try, especially when you're trying to get a job.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that was
Thank
helpful.
you.
Thanks for calling, Anne.
Good to know.
Good luck, Anne.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's such an interesting question. And I do honestly think that persistence is one of those things that is helpful. And in this day and age, people get scared.
I know.
They get burned by it, and then they feel like, oh my God.
Or they quit too quickly.
Yeah, or they quit too quickly.
I've certainly done that.
I think we've all done that, especially in our early days. Oh, the whiteboard has come up.
The whiteboard is coming.
Wait,
Is there whiteboard music?
How do I make a good and memorable impression? Thank you so much, Susan. It's like we have our own Vanna White at Newsstand Studios.
I love it.
Yeah, and if you're in Rock Center, come by. We have a glass front so we can see everyone. All right, so the question, look, and Joe has figured out how to make music. You guys, we are firing on all cylinders at Newsstand Studios. All right, so the question is, how do I make a good and favorable
I would like
impression?
you to take this one, because you make a fabulous first impression all the time.
Well, I believe, and this is going to be a very unpopular opinion, but I can kind of see my mom's face, so she'll agree with this when I say it. Hi, Mom. I never think that being overdressed is a bad thing. Mary and I absolutely disagree on this point. But just hear me out.
Yes.
If you walk into your internship the first day looking really put together, that's a good thing.
Oh, definitely.
Just that first day, show up.
Yeah.
And just show up with a smile on your face. If more than anything, I will tell this story until the day I die. There's a woman named Caroline Spencer who was my intern, and I can't wait for her to hear this.
So sweet. I loved her.
Yes. So Caroline Spencer was an intern probably 20 years ago. I mean, it was a very long time ago. And Caroline was one of those people who always showed up. She was always polite, put together, kind of right next to me for anything I needed, but also not right next to me 24/7, asking question after question that she could have figured out on her own. Because I think there's a distinction there. As an intern, you definitely want to ask questions because you don't want to be sort of floundering.
Yeah,
you want to make sure you don't want to assume, especially at the beginning as you're sort of figuring things out. On the other side, there are things you can figure out, especially with Google, which, by the way, we didn't have when I was an intern. So figure those things out and then come to me with those questions. So long and short, we had a huge event, and I was running around like crazy, and I couldn't find my, hold for applause, BlackBerry. This was before the iPhone. I could not find my BlackBerry anywhere. And I literally am looking around, and I see Caroline at my office door, and I said, hi. She said, are you looking for your BlackBerry? And I said, yeah. She goes, I noticed that it was low on charge, and we have an event tonight, so I plugged it in for you.
Oh,
and
that is
I remember
gold.
thinking to myself,
Yep.
This woman will be a success. I like to say that Caroline Spencer runs Goldman Sachs. She'll kill me for saying that out loud, but she runs her own private wealth team. I think anyone who wants to invest money should invest with Caroline because she is so savvy and so smart. And that has been a through line since the beginning of her internship. All right, we have another call. We're going to jump to that really quickly. Hi, caller. What's your name?
Hi, this is Susan Forrest. I'm here in New York City.
Hi, Susan.
Hi. My good friend Gardner is one of your interns, Lydia, and she told me about this live. I'm so excited.
Well, we're so excited, and Gardner has done everything that we needed her to do since the first day, so she's an A+ intern for sure.
She's the best.
She is the best. Susan, how can we help you? What internship questions can we answer for you?
Well, similar to Gardner, I was looking for a job here, and I finally got one. But I'm studying finance, although I'm not really sure that I want to work in the finance industry. And I feel like my resume is just kind of scattered with a bunch of different like past internships and jobs. But when I'm looking for a full-time job next year after my senior year, I really want to be able to hone in on what I want to do. And I'm like worried and hesitant that my interviewers or future employers are going to not want to hire me because my skills are so scattered. So I was just wondering if you guys had any advice how to like really present myself with more confidence and the ability to convince them that I can do it all and learn anything. I'm not quite sure exactly what I want to do yet, but...
And nor should you know right now what you want to do. So I can start with this, and I'm so excited for you because I do think this beginning journey, everything is possible, and you're at such a great part. I would never look at a resume with a lot of things on it. I know this is not the popular opinion, and think experience in different areas is a sign of scattered. I think I would look at it and say you've had glimpses into a lot of different things that might be helpful for you to make a decision, informed decision on what you do and do not want to do. Yeah. What I would suggest when you're cleaning up your resume is the ones that really didn't count, that you didn't really, I would remove those just because if they had no relevance to your growth or they had no, but don't. But keep. I think it shows that you've tried a lot of things and you're finding your way, and I don't think there's anything wrong in that.
Yeah, and I would add to that and say, Susan, the other thing to think about is whenever you're presenting a resume, you're telling a story of your life. So what you need to think about in that resume is what's the through line? Like in all of these jobs, what have you learned that is going to be the connective piece? Is it that you're really innovative and that's why you wanted to try all of these different things? Is it that you're a hard worker, you like to get in depth for a short amount of time, and that is something you can bring to the table? I had a woman who interviewed for me and then subsequently worked for me for 7 years, and she came in with a resume and there were things for all over the place. She'd worked at Moda Operandi. She worked at the Financial Times. She had all of this different experience. And I remember looking at it and thinking, I don't really understand. And then she wove this story about the things that she'd picked up in all of these things that would bring her to Christie's and make her an addition. And it was really one of the first people I hired who wasn't internal at that point because, the beauty of an internship or the beauty of working at a company is sometimes it's just low-hanging fruit. When you're looking for someone with a job, you're like, oh, this person already knows the language. I'll just usher them in. But she was able to make such a compelling story that all of a sudden I was like, oh, I see why she should be in this office. And she was a huge part of my team and of growing my team because of her outside experience. So sit down with your friends. I mean, I think sometimes people underestimate how important it is to have other people's opinions. Like, sit down with your friends and be like, what am I good at?
Yeah.
Like, when you think of me, is it my people skills? Yep. Like, what are my soft skills? Because at the end of the day, in most jobs, you can learn things. But the bottom line is, in order to learn them, you have to have learned them from somewhere. So make that part of it.
I do. And it doesn't have to all line up with, like, let's say you're going for a finance job and there's that you worked at a restaurant. I like to see that because I like to know how to deal with different types of people, that working in restaurants is hard. Mickey Drexler, the CEO, the golden CEO of Gap, J. Crew, now Alex Mill, and luckily one of my biggest mentors. When he looks at resumes, he doesn't look where they went to college. He doesn't look where they're from. He looks at where they worked and if there's a restaurant on there, if there's a gas station on there, if there's like these things that are like life building and from the foundation up, he loves that. And I agree with that too. It's not all showing off. It's showing your grit and it's showing how hard you work.
I hope that was helpful,
yes,
Susan.
We hope so.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Come in with Gardner one time. We'll work on your resume. We can help you out.
That's a good service resume.
Yeah, actually, counsel. That's actually a spinoff. Now we're scaling our skill, and Mary and I are starting a resume builder. Oh, we have another one. Okay, guys, this whiteboard is on fire. Susan, thank you so much for the whiteboard. Susan, my intern. How do I anticipate what is needed of me? Oh, is this in response to my BlackBerry? How do I anticipate what is needed of me? Mary said this at the beginning. One thing I always loved about interns is the youth aspect of it. Now that as I'm getting older, there are things that I just don't know. One thing I have loved about the interns that I currently have is, I said to them, I was like, guys, I want to work on my newsletter. I feel like my newsletter, everything I have in there is kind of like, I'm selling my book. Right. Here's the retreat. Here's the agency. I was like, I want something sort of fun and different. Maybe we could do I don't know, like what are your favorite book tips? Like a summer intern favorite book tips for the newsletter. And they jumped on that immediately. And then from there were all of these ideas. And that's what I love about having fresh energy and interns around, because at the end of the day, I mean, both of us have been in our industries forever.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking for fresh eyeballs.
Fresh ideas. I mean, especially for me in a catering and event production company that I have, I say I don't care if you were here for 2 hours or 20 years. All ideas are good ideas. Let me just hear them. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. And the more out of the box, the more ridiculous, that's where you find the genius. That's where you find the madness. So just bring me ideas. I have them on Instagram. We set up like a group, chat on our Instagram. And just keep sending me things you find. Yeah. Like I'm not, I'm older. You're younger. You're looking at things I'm not looking at. Like I want to learn from you. And I think that's another important thing you and I share. We want to learn and we want to pay it forward and we want to pass it on. I know a lot of people our age, they get really grumpy about the Gen Z. Is that what they are? Gen Z. Okay. They get really grumpy about it. And you could choose to be really grumpy and say, I used to work so hard. Do you know what I used to do? My boss used to throw ashtrays at me, which they did.
Yeah, that is actually not true.
It's totally true. But what I love about this exchange is there's so much we can give to them like this, helping them that. But there's so much they give to us. Like I'm learning every day. Gen Z, they're incredible self-advocates.
Yes.
I turned my reproductive system upside down because I internalized everything. Like they speak up for themselves. They know their boundaries. They know what they will and will not do. And I appreciate that. I also, so I think this exchange can be really, really strong. It makes us better leaders. It makes them enter this world a little, tougher. But I love the exchange that happens from that. And there's so much to learn from them and there's so much for them to learn from us.
Absolutely. And I think just in terms of anticipating someone's needs, the real thing is just to be helpful, because that's all I think anyone's looking for, especially in businesses where, Mary and I are both entrepreneurs. It's like there's never a lack of something to do. So, just be there, come up with ideas and suggestions, and, just be like an enthusiastic advocate for yourself and for what you want to learn. If there's some part of what you want in your internship to grow more into, do that. Yeah. Like as you were saying earlier, the woman who was creative and became the creative director. Like it's always so great when someone's like, listen, I am really good at this. Can I take a stab at trying to make that happen? And you're like, yeah, sure, go ahead. I don't have the time. I don't have the bandwidth. That's not in my wheelhouse. So
yeah. Or really, hey, I'm a whiz on social media and I see that you are still on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
like what can I do to help grow you? So there's so many things you can do. And it's being proactive and also being self-awareness too is a big thing about interning. We have another question.
We have another call. You guys, phone lines are like blowing up. All right. All right. Next question. Hello, caller.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Mary, and I am starting a new internship this summer, and I'm working with a lot of other people, and we're all trying to get an opportunity for a full-time job next year. Mm-hmm. And I was just wondering what the best way to go about that is while not making it a very competitive environment and not overwhelming the other people.
Oh, it's interesting.
Well, Mary, first of all, I think you should get it just based solely on your name. My name's Mary. You got to stand out. There's a way to stand out without being competitive, I think.
Yeah.
I don't have my business partner and I, we've run a really great company together. And we say this all the time. She's incredibly competitive. I have not a competitive bone in my body. Yeah. But I know how to stand out without being, I don't know. So just stand out, be strong. I don't know if that's tangible advice. Go ahead.
No, I think that's great advice. And I think standing out is obviously about showing up, doing what you're asked, but also, as we said earlier, sort of coming to the table with fresh ideas. And the other thing I would say too, one thing about the internship is don't forget that the internship doesn't end the day that you finish your job. One of my interns who I eventually hired, a woman named Lauren Land, when I was at Christie's, started as an intern and I think we kind of went out to lunch. She wasn't even in my department, but I knew her sister and I knew her brother-in-law from college. And she reached out to me at the end of her internship. I was like 3 months in, and invited me out for lunch. And we sat down and we had a lovely lunch. I didn't have internships available in my department. I didn't have anything available in my apartment that fall. And I'll never forget that she kept writing notes over the course of that year, just keeping me abreast of what she was doing in her college year, her senior year in college. And those notes sat on my desk because I love a thank you note. I love a monogram thank you note. And I remember thinking to myself in May of that year, like, oh, my team is so strong. I had this amazing woman named Jane Shull who'd been with me forever. And Jane came into my office. And honestly, you could have knocked me over with a feather. I was so surprised by this conversation. She was like, so, I'm getting married, which I knew. She's like, and we're going to move back to Indianapolis where my husband is from. And I was just like, wait, what? And in that moment, my eye caught the note from Lauren. And I remember thinking, I will move the woman who is currently in the coordinator position up one, and I will call her. And she started working for me. I mean, if Lauren was here, she could tell me. But I think she graduated and was in my office like maybe the next week. I mean, it was crazy. And I think that sometimes people think that the internship, like the only thing you can do is to distinguish yourself at that moment, when in fact, you keep it going. Like you keep those relationships going over time. It also goes to that other piece that I talk about.
I get a Christmas card every year from one of my interns.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that right?
And it's lovely. It's just amazing. Like, she's has a big career now.
Yeah.
But I love that.
Yeah. And also don't ever forget those interns in your class, kind of what I said about Caroline Spencer, those interns in your class and the people that you get to know. Those people are in your life forever. I mean, I was on a call with someone this week and she said, I was in the middle of a call with someone from Apple TV yesterday and they were asking about some projects and I mentioned your book and she said to me, oh my God, I used to intern for that woman. And I was like, wait, did she like me? And she's like, no, she had nice things to say. I was like, wait, that woman really scared me. But I do think that you don't realize when you are in your 19, 20, 21, 22 years that every single person you have the opportunity to work with in your office, but also the people on your core team, become part of your network that stays for the rest of your life. And the higher up you get in business,
don't burn those bridges.
No matter
how small you think you are on the totem pole, you're not.
Anyway, thank you so much for your call, Mary.
Call, and good luck to you, Mary. Yeah. I'm rooting for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm trying to think the things that because you sit there. I remember the first time I worked at the catering company that I never didn't know anything about catering.
Yeah.
And it was a temp job. I was like, I'm just here on my stop towards SNL. Never happened. But
yet.
I remember sitting there and the woman who was leaving and I was taking her spot just threw a bunch of files on my desk and was like, and walked away. And I wanted to ask a million questions. But at first I was like, all right, let me get through this file and like read through the whole thing and see like what, and then I remember being like, I've never done any of this before. Like I need to ask some questions, and I asked questions, but I knew. Again, it's self-awareness. It's knowing when to ask, how to ask. Reading the room. Reading a room is very important.
Reading a room is important, and reading the whiteboard outside
the whiteboard
Newson
is coming.
Studios. What would you do different in your first internship? Can I take this since my dad is sitting outside?
Yes.
I would spend more time with Dad learning how to drive a stick shift so that I didn't get left in the middle of an intersection after one lesson. So that'd be my first internship. My first internship was at my father's law office, and my job was in a windowless coffee room where I copied law books. And I have always had, like in my life, I do things very quickly, not necessarily efficiently, wrong word. I do things quickly, not necessarily with like the appropriate amount of detail, which is something I learned to slow over the course of my career because it was definitely something that was lacking. And I remember I was like, well, I've got to make 6,000 pages of copies, so I'll just get these done quickly. And I remember my father's secretary came up and she's like, so when you're copying them, it would be helpful if you could get the entire first page instead of just like half of the page. I was like, right, that seems intuitive. However, I don't remember that. Thank God for my father for letting me come to intern at his law firm. But I do think that over the course of your internship, God, I really wish that I had been more detail-oriented. It was something that I learned, like obviously my dad's, but it came through to Christie's when I was in charge of putting together a guest list for this huge dinner, very early days. This was this was part of my second internship. So It was probably month one. And I will never forget walking into the dinner and my boss, Lauren Short, God bless her, is like literally sheet white. And she turns to me and she said, 13 people have showed up who were not on the guest list. And then I remember thinking, oh, I definitely did not know how to sort on Excel. So maybe that explained that. It was the single
Your catering friend really enjoyed that mistake, by the way.
Experience.
How hard it is to have 13 meals up here.
Yes, it was that was really, I will never forget that moment. It really made me aware of how important it was to pay attention to the details, especially in events. And so, horrible lesson to learn. Thankfully, nothing happened at the end of it.
You never made that mistake again?
I can't even tell you. I didn't even press sort half the time. They'd be like, this is an alphabetical. I'm like, that's because I don't want to take the chance. So anyway, tell us about yours.
I put the wrong date on a party once. And,
God, my heart just sank for you.
Yeah. And the client called and was like, why is the rental company here and your waiter's here? And I was like, because the parties. And I had to tell my boss, and he prepared all the food, and that was a huge mistake. Never made that mistake again. It was just literally checking the date on an Excel pop-in. Yeah. I also didn't order glasses to Conan O'Brien's house once when he did a little party, and it was one of my first parties. And I ran in heels from his apartment to Bed Bath & Beyond, I think it was, or Crate and Barrel, and had to buy 25 wine glasses and run them back, take the little stickers off, wash them. I never forgot to rent glasses again. But I think the question was, what would you do differently? And I think this is an important one. Have patience. Don't think, especially if you have a shiny internship, if you're doing anything in our fashion entertainment and anything in that world, don't think the first day you are going to be the star of the show. You are not. And you have to have patience. And I think I quit a lot of things way too soon because I was like, well, I mean, I'm just getting coffee. I'm just like, it's not a big deal if I don't show up. I'm just getting coffee. That is the terribly wrong attitude. Have patience because have patience and work hard, but don't think you're going to get it immediately.
Yeah. I definitely remember thinking when I was in my first internship at Christie's, where my entire job was just to cross off the name of a department that had been changed with a pencil and a paper and literally just rename it. It was 3 letters and it had to go from one to the next one. And I'm talking hundreds of pieces of paper. And then the second part of my internship was shredding paper. Mm-hmm. So like people used to joke, they called me the shredder. Don't get staples in the shredder, it jams it. But I would stand by the shredder near the elevator and shred paper. But the interesting thing about that job was that I met everyone because at that point there were no phones and I was right by the elevator. And so I would end up having conversations with people. And I can remember because at that time, the first internship that I did at Christie's, I was working in business development. So it was a very back office job. You didn't have a lot of interface with clients. You didn't have any interface with other specialists. And I remember walking to lunch with a couple of members from the team. And everyone's like, oh, hi, Lydia. Hey, Shredder. You know, all these things. And I remember one of the women said to me, how do you know so many people? And I remember thinking, because I'm standing by the elevator shredding paper, that's how I've met everyone.
Opportunity everywhere.
Everywhere.
Even with shredding.
Even with shredding. It's incredible. Who would have known?
Yeah, I remember. And again, like I was an assistant script supervisor for an actor, I remember. And just my whole job was just to stand there on the side of the theater. And if they called line, I'd catch them up. That was my job. Okay. And I just stopped paying attention. Oh, and the first time
that would not have been the job for you.
It was not good. It was not good for someone with ADD. So yeah, you just got to do your best. You got to do. Yeah. So I would go back to my first internship and I would just do things a lot better.
A lot better.
But also falling on my face so many times though, I have to say did help build me. And it gives me a lot of runway with all the interns and young people starting in my office because you're going to mess up, but you're never going to do it again if you mess up terribly the first time.
Oh, I like this one. The whiteboard. Thank you so much, Gardner. Is it possible to ask too many questions?
Lydia and I will definitely have different answers for this. I am more of the economy of words kind of person. And Lydia, as we all know, is not.
It's true. I never stop talking. And I never do stop talking.
But it's beautiful and wonderful. And that's why we love you.
But I also love that you think you have an economy of words because I completely disagree. I think you talk just as much as I do. But that's fine. Anyway, I would say, is it possible to ask too many questions? I think as long as you're asking the right questions.
Yeah, just think them through. Don't ask everything that comes to the tip of your...
Yeah, that would be it. Again, Google can answer a lot.
Yes.
Really. And I would even say that I've said that to people too about their first interview, when they go to interview for a job. When you come in for your first interview and you have questions, don't ask me questions that you can find online. I mean, I have a very strong social media presence. I also am on, like, you can Google a lot of articles about my career and things like that. So coming to me in the first meeting, when you have a half an hour meeting, especially in an informational interview, and saying, so where did you grow up?
Ooh.
And to me, I'm like, you have half an hour. Like, ask me what you want to know.
Right.
Come to me with questions that you actually have and you want to pass forward. Because at the end of the day, all of that stuff you can find before you walk in the door.
Yeah, definitely. Do your homework.
Do your homework. I had one woman at Christie's. I remember this. She came in for an informational interview, and she rolled in with a Diet Coke. It was 3:00, a Diet Coke and and chocolates. And I was like, you will forever be in my good graces. I mean, she'd read my books. I think she'd read an
she
article.
brought to you. I thought she just came in chomping on some chocolate. I was like, oh, confident little lady.
I was like, are you going to share that? Are you going to share that? You can ask my interns, I think, every day at 3. I'm like, so here's some cookies, guys.
Well,
Yeah.
think about us. It wasn't an internship. It was a first job. But what about the night that you ran out of place cards? And I was in your office, and it was late, and you were really upset because you had breakfast the next morning, and all the places were closed, all the stationery stores were closed, and I was like, I got you, lady. Yeah. And I went to Staples, open 24 hours on Long Island.
You did.
And I showed up the next morning
with double-sided place cards so that people could see them wherever they were. And I remember that. And I think that's always why we got along so well.
Yeah.
Because the other thing I would say about being an intern or being in your first job is don't ever forget that you're part of a team.
Yeah.
It's such a crucial miss when you feel, and I always think about people who are not great to their interns, about how easy it is to pull someone down when they've been mean to you when things go wrong. And what you're really striving for in an office environment, and I've always very much felt like this, is that you're a team. So if something goes wrong, you're circling the wagons and keeping things close.
Yep.
Going back to Lauren Land, who I definitely hope listens to this podcast since she's getting so much airtime on here. But I remember a time when we had a Sunday brunch. Mm-hmm. You'll remember this too. I think you were the caterer at the time, but we had a Sunday brunch and she was in charge of the brunch. So whoever was in the events department and was in charge of it at that moment, they were kind of in basically soup to nuts, and no one else had to be in except for the caterer and the point person. And I got a call from, actually it was a different person on your team at that point, and they said, do you know how to print the guest list? And I was like, why would you need to print the guest list? And all of a sudden I realized that Lauren wasn't there yet. And it was close in time to when it was starting. And she luckily was able to get there in time and sort of got everything done. And she was quite young at the time. I think it was like maybe when she'd first taken over the events department. And I remember she came in to talk, and, you know, I've had moments like that in my career where it's just like you feel like you're going to be sick. You're like, is this my last day of work? And she had that look on her face when she walked in. And I said to her, I was like, I think what you are missing about this is that if you had overslept or you got the time wrong, I live close and I could have been there. So like, I shouldn't be the last call. I should be the first call. Like, oh my gosh, I messed up. Something happened. I'm not going to be on there in time. I was like, I could have been there. I actually, that day had happened to go to Grand Central. So I was around the corner. And if that call had come 5 minutes earlier, instead of getting on the train, I could have just gone there.
You mean you weren't sleeping under a tablecloth in the supply closet of Christie's?
This was like 15 years into my career. So I'd put in my tablecloth time, which by the way, I did not once, but twice. But I do think that that's such an important part of it too, to just always remember that you're all in the same team. You're all moving in the same direction.
I tell my office all the time. It's been around for a long time. I think it's part of our Constitution, or united we stand, divided we fall. Yeah. It's never more true than in an office.
Yeah.
When an office and when an environment is gelling and cohesive and you're winning together, there's no better feeling. But when there's the disturbers, the pulling down, it's
tough times.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting. The other thing I would always, and I would ask this about your first job too, what was your favorite thing about your first job? And what was your first job? Do I even know this?
Oh, gosh.
Was it Make-A-Wish?
So many. And my first real job was, it might have been Make-A-Wish. But
Mary was a Wish coordinator at Make-A-Wish. That's how we met.
I know.
At the original.
It was the best job in the world, by the way. I literally had a business card that said Wish Granter. But what was the question? What was my best
job?
My best job.
Ever.
Being a mommy.
Oh, that's sweet. Oh, I know. That is such a good job. It is the best of the best jobs.
Oh, second to being a mommy. My best job. I love what I do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you always have.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
So
I have a question for you.
Oh, yeah.
if I
Like,
want
that's
to
not
be
the way this is supposed to work, but yes.
if I want to be an intern, I could do this. We've been best friends for 24 years. If I want to be an intern at the Lydia Fenet agency, which I believe is going to be, you're about to step into your biggest year you've ever had.
Thank you for saying that.
What do you want to see? What are the first 3 things you want to see?
Well, my interns right now are kind of killing it.
They're here. I know they're fantastic.
They're killing it. So I'll tell you what I have liked about my interns thus far.
Yes, I love that.
Number 1, they show up ready to work.
Yep.
They are in it to win it. Number 2, they came with me at their own request, by the way. I didn't even suggest this. I sort of threw it out there like, you're welcome to do this at any point. They came with me to my last auction on Wednesday night, and we're such cheerleaders. And Mary's been my cheerleader for years. And I always say, I take all the auctions that I take at this point in my career by myself. So I'm out there, like night after night, completely by myself, meeting friends on the fly. But to actually have people watching and supporting, and we had such a fun night. We went out afterwards and just like hung out, and it made me feel so great about getting to know them better. And then number 3, come with fresh ideas because that's what they're doing. We are doing a lot of podcasts right now, and so they're sort of working on the podcast questions with me and sort of spitballing things about the lives of the people who are coming in. So those are really my 3 biggest takeaways.
Would you hire me as an intern?
What company would I be hiring you for? I would hire you to hang out with me all the time. I don't know. I think that we don't have the best skill sets to work together. You know what Mary and I do very well? I will tell you this at our companies, in our joint company, the Lydia and Mary show. What we do really well is we support each other a lot. I mean, no one peps me up like Mary. That's the truth.
Right back at you, sister.
It's like she's my first call.
But we've been doing that since our first time we met.
Yes.
And as little baby interns and first jobs.
Yes.
We just, you build that wall, you build it, you build that ladder, not that wall. You build
that wall, right?
You don't build a wall. You build a ladder
over the wall.
You jump over the wall with the ladder. Great.
All right. I'm going to get to, because I have only 7 minutes left. What is your biggest piece of advice for a successful interview? Thank you, Susan.
Oh.
How does someone come in and kill an interview for you?
Confidence.
Yes.
Confidence. You just listen, you're going to be nervous. So there's a degree of after the initial nerves and that comes in, I just want to see that you believe in yourself.
Yeah.
No matter what it is. I look for confidence.
Yeah.
Which is why Claim Your Confidence, available where all books are sold, could be very, very helpful to you before your first internship.
Yes. And if you want to feel like you want to laugh hard, you could read one of Mary's 3 books, but the most recent one, How to Lose Friends and Influence No One, is not the book you should read.
Do not
read
read that. Read Claim Your Confidence first.
Read Claim Your Confidence, and then after your interview, read the second one. I think that for a successful interview, what I'm looking for is somebody who comes in with good questions, is curious, shows some kind of ingenuity about their ideas about what could be working in my company right now, especially as an entrepreneur. I'm just looking for ideas.
Yeah.
I'll try anything once. I'll throw paint against the wall 100 times, and it doesn't bother me if it doesn't work out, but I want to try it.
A refreshing perspective.
Exactly.
I love a refreshing perspective on, since we've been doing this for so long, what do you think? And I'll ask that. What do you think? You looked us up online. You've looked at maybe some of our parties on Instagram. What do you think about us? How do we present ourselves? And I love to get their opinion.
Yeah. And I also like someone who is aware of the fact that they're in an interview, because I've done so many informational interviews, and some people come so prepared, and other people just, it's like, at the end of, I'm like, what were we doing there? What was this? Yeah. Was this just a conversation? You asked no questions. You had no point of view. So all of those things I think are really important. And then again, going back to what I said earlier, the follow-up. Make sure that you're following up afterwards with a quick email or a thank you note to just say, thank you for your time. And then follow up and let me know what you're up to.
I do hate that awkward moment in interviews when it's, do you have any questions?
Yeah.
And then I like when you do have questions, because obviously they know that they're going to get that question. I don't know. For some reason, that always bothers me.
Yeah. I actually was just being interviewed for a potential speaking opportunity, and these are sort of like broad corporate companies, and one of their clients is McDonald's. And the woman at the very end said to me, so what is your favorite thing on the menu at McDonald's? And it really caught me off guard.
Yeah.
Well, the first question was, she said, what is your favorite memory of McDonald's?
Large fries and a small Coke.
I should have called you.
It's been my standing order since I'm
I know.
9.
I was like, well, I eat my kids' fries. I always make them order a large because for some reason I feel like I shouldn't order them because I'll eat them all. And then I have an oversized Diet Coke. And I was like, that's probably not the answer you were looking for. So I'm probably not going to get this job. I'm not even sure that I'm the right person.
That's still available? I could be well versed in McDonald's.
Yeah, I was like, but my friend Mary could come speak to your company for sure.
I have to say, if we're going to kill a couple minutes, I'm so proud of you. No, I have to say that we are in the building where we first met 24 years ago, and you are exactly where you should be, and where you're headed is exactly where you were going from the first day I met you. And and you have inspired and lifted, and you walk the walk, you talk the talk, and meeting you as a young kind of fledgling, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, you made me work harder, and I appreciate that. And I'm really proud of you, and I love you.
Well, I love you too, and I'm really proud of you for everything. Thank you, Joe. And we're proud of Joe for just always being the best.
Could Joe just walk around me all day in my ears and just
adding applause
and laughter?
I know. Well, two things. First and foremost, I know, and I just did say this about Joe, but Joe really helped me craft this podcast.
Joe's the best.
When I came in here, I did not really know what I was doing on that first day. And Joe has been such a partner to me in this podcast. And it's been so fun to have him in this studio every single day.
We love you, Joe.
We do. And also other people I love, obviously, Mary. I do want to say for everyone out there, Mary has been, for me, not only such a huge support, which to anyone out there who is starting a job or an internship, find your people.
Find your buddy.
Because when things go wrong, Mary's the person I call.
Absolutely.
When the New York Times, I thought, had killed the piece that ultimately was the reason I sold The Most Powerful Woman in the Room Is You, Mary was the one who told me to call the reporter to find out when the piece was coming out. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
You were like, why didn't the piece come out? And I said, I don't know. I guess they just didn't, they didn't want to run it.
To sell your book.
You need this. You've got to do this. Get your chapter ready.
Yeah.
And, gave me her agent's information. So also I guess that also goes to my earlier point about the people that you meet in your first internships.
Yep.
Because Mary and I met because she was a Wish grantor at Make-A-Wish. Mm-hmm. I was in charge of coordinating the events at Christie's. And we did an event together. We had no idea what we were doing because neither of us at that point had learned we hadn't learned to be detail oriented.
But we learned together.
And as a result of that, we've had over 20 years of ups and downs and all the things that go sideways. And it's been the joy of my life to have you alongside me.
Right back at you, my sister.
So to anyone who has an internship in their future or wants an internship, what would you say one last piece of advice, Mary?
Find your best buddy who's going to be your biggest cheerleader.
Oh, I love that so much. And I would say my piece of advice is, in addition to finding your buddy, I'll jump from there. Just show up with a smile on your face and work hard.
Work hard.
Guys, it's not that hard.
And be nice.
Work hard and be nice. All right. Well, I'm going to leave it there. Mary, I cannot thank you enough for spending this day, which I know is such a big day for you, with me in Newsstand Studios. I want to thank Tishman Spire for letting us do this in this incredible studio. I want to say hello to all the people outside who are waving, our fans. We finally have them, Mary. We've been waiting forever.
We have a fan.
Thank you to Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you to my parents.
Thanks, Bob and Sally.
To my incredible Lydia Fenet agency interns who have called in. They've manned the whiteboard and have been the point people today.
Do you remember your first boss's name? Thank you, first boss.
Lauren Short. Bob Fenet before that.
Daniel Matroci.
Thank you so much. All right, you guys, this is Claim Your Confidence, and we are out. Have a wonderful week.
Yay!